Another Vinyl Finds video, and I really don't have too many albums to show, so I'm going to get right into it. The first album I'm going to show is actually one that I got on Discogs, and this album is an album that I actually found at a record store, and they had $40 on it, and I saw it on Discogs for $11.99. Ended up being like less than $16 shipped, so I ended up getting it on there, saved like over 20 bucks. And it's a Government Mule, Life Before Insanity. It's a music and vinyl version. It was still brand new on when I got it on Discogs. I don't know how they had it so cheap, but I'm glad that I saw it on there before I actually bought the one that was $40. And I actually wouldn't have bought the one that was $40 because I didn't want to pay $40 for it. But I am definitely glad to pay less than $16 for it. And I mean, I just love Government Mule. Pretty much anything that they release, anything that Warren Haynes releases is just excellent. Just great music. Just a great band. And this is a really great album by Government Mule. Originally came out with in 2000. And I really want to get their first album. I feel like Music and Vinyl released that one not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago. And I've never been able to track that one down. But maybe one that I'll have to eventually order online. But Life Before Insanity, just an awesome album by Government Mule. And the other day, I think it was this past Saturday, Vinyl Rescue Project is a record store that I go to quite a bit. One that's really, really close to me. He was having a flash sale, just a random flash sale that I think it was just kind of spur of the moment that he just decided to have. And it was like 20% off or like 30% off, depending on the price of the item. But I picked up just one item there, and it's an original 1993. It's a UK pressing of Allison in Chains, Angry Chair EP, and just definitely cool to find this one. And of course, I would find it just like not too long ago. I did an Allison in Chains collection video, and of course, I would find this after I made that video. But that's usually how things work. But there's just 4 songs on here. It has Angry Chair and I Know Something About You on side 1, and side 2 has Bleed the Freak and I Ain't Like That, and those 2 songs are actually live versions of those songs. So definitely cool to have that one. And the cool thing about that is I Know Something About You is from Facelift, so it's cool to have the studio version of that song on vinyl, because I don't have Facelift on vinyl yet. But in the last 2 tracks, which are live tracks, but they're also live songs that's originally on Facelifts too. So it's definitely cool to have 3 songs that I didn't have before. And definitely always trying to get original Allison in Chains stuff. So cool to find that one. And I did go back to the Irvington Vinyl place. I've actually made a couple trips to that place, and the first time I went back there, it was actually just probably 2 days after I posted my last Vinyl Finds video, and it's a place that I found the whole album, Live Through This, and I mean, there's just so many awesome stuff in this place. And there was one album that I saw when I went in there initially, and I got the whole album, and I kind of regretted not picking it up, but at the same time, I just couldn't spend that much money. I couldn't bring myself to spend that much money in 2 albums at that place, and this particular album was $75. So I actually sold some stuff to Half Price Books, and to justify paying $75 for this album. And there's just one that I just really, really wanted really bad, and really couldn't stop thinking about it, honestly. It was just like in my head, just kind of just figured I'd sell some stuff, and actually there was just a bunch of video games and some albums that I just didn't play that really, honestly, were just sitting around collecting dust. So might as well trade them off and get something that I actually wanted. And didn't have to put too much money towards it after I sold stuff to Half Price Books. So that was definitely a plus. And that album is Nirvana Incesticide, an original copy of this album. And it's just really cool to actually be able to have this. And I'm actually glad that they still had this album when I went back to get it. It's just an awesome album. It's one of the Nirvana albums that I really wanted and needed for the to have, but just in pristine condition. Still has the sleeve and of course it is the Blue Swirl version of the album, and I think they actually had a pretty fair price on the album for what it usually goes for on Discogs and eBay. That's definitely hard to pay $75 for just one album. It's hard to bring at least for me, it's hard to bring myself to do that, but at least I was able to justify paying that much for it with selling some stuff. And I'm definitely glad that I went back and got it, because it's just one that I really wanted. And I mean, stuff that you don't see out in the open all the time. So I'm definitely glad that I did pick that one up. But speaking of Irvington vinyl, me and my dad actually made another trip back up there just this past weekend, and I found some more stuff there that I mean, every time I go in there, and it's just a great store. And I will say, like, the one complaint that I have about Irvington vinyl, and the place isn't very big, it's not huge, but they have like 2 different rooms of records. And there's really no real organization to their records, so I mean, you definitely have to dig to find some stuff, but I did find some things in there that I hadn't seen in there before, so I don't know. Some of them were in new arrival boxes, which is like a whole different story about, like, because I have like a shelf of new arrivals, and then it stops at like an M, and then there's like 3 or 4 boxes just scattered around the floor with all the other new arrivals. But so definitely some odd organization on their end, but there's a lot of awesome albums there, a lot of stuff that I never see in just any other record store. So this place is just phenomenal. And another album I picked up there this last time I went in there is an original 1995 copy of White Zombie, Astro Creep 2000. It's just cool to find this one in there too, and this is like an album that I had been thinking about getting the music on vinyl version of for a while, but I just didn't want to pay the price that I would always see at the record stores for the music on vinyl version. And actually, this one was cheaper than that, and it's on the a limited edition transparent blue vinyl on top of that, so definitely cool to find that one. And obviously White Zombie's last album before Rob Zombie started doing some solo stuff. And I mean, this is like an album that I listened to this the other day, and it was the first time I had probably heard Astro Creep 2000 all the way through, and probably a long time, probably over 10 years, and definitely gonna have to give it another listen, because I thought I remember liking it a lot more, honestly. But not a terrible album. There's a lot of songs on there that I really enjoy. But another album, and this is one album that I was actually just super psyched to find, the one that I had been wanting to find forever, and it was one of these albums I had on my want list on Discogs, and every time they'd pop up, they wouldn't be too expensive, but it'd always be out of other countries, and so the shipping would always be outrageous, so I could never justify picking it up on there. But I found it at this Irvington vinyl place, and it's Helmet. It's Helmet, Betty, and this is a really cool album. I love this album, and Irvington vinyl had Helmet's first 3 albums, and I will say that, like, they had 2 albums in one box, and they had this one in another box. So I mean, it's just in 2 different rooms, and I ended up coming across this one. And this is my favorite Helmet album, and I was definitely psyched to get this one. And if I'm probably going to go back to Irvington vinyl, I'm sure, and if they still have the other Helmet albums, I'll probably pick them up as well. Not really too expensive, and for some reason they released this one on 2 10-inch records instead of just one regular 12-inch record. I don't know why they did that, but just a great album from Helmet. And this version is actually a little bit different than the actual CD version, because I mean, I have the CD version as well, and there's one song that's on the CD that's not on this one, and there's 3 songs on this one that aren't on the CD. So definitely cool that they added some bonus tracks up to the actual record, and for some reason they took one off. But just an awesome album from Helmet. Definitely recommend listening to it if you've never heard Helmet before. And these guys are actually going on tour right now, playing this entire album in its entirety. So that's definitely cool. If they're coming to your area, definitely go see them for me, because they're not coming anywhere near Indiana. But one more album to show, and this is another one that I was just super psyched to find, and it's Neil Young and Crazy Horse Ragged Glory. I mean, Neil Young's one of those guys that I'm always looking for his stuff. He's one of those guys that I eventually would like to get all of his albums, but probably something that's not going to be very possible. But his stuff from the 90s is definitely kind of hard to find, and it can be actually kind of expensive. So this is the album that he came out with after Freedom, and this is one that came out in 1990. And just in pristine condition again. Like, all their albums are in really good shape. He had a pretty fair price on it as well, and still has the original sleeve. I haven't actually played this record yet, but it looks like it honestly has never even been played. Just a really great album from Neil Young, though. Neil Young's one of those guys you really can't go wrong with pretty much any album he releases, but definitely was psyched to find this one. It's just another Neil Young album that I can say that I own now, and the one that I honestly really can't wait to listen to. I'm actually probably going to listen to this one after I finish this video, but that's all the stuff I have to show. Anyway, thanks again, guys, for watching, and I definitely give all those 2 thumbs up for sure.